As a game streamer, I was transmigrated into a romance game with one mission: win Joseph's heart. I pursued him for 5 years, first as his fiance, then as his most obedient lover and secretary. On his first love's birthday, he ordered me to book an entire cruise ship and summon all his lovers so he could hand out breakup compensation. Everyone on board cheered. Only I was kicked off. Scarlett, Joseph's first love, leaned against him with smug satisfaction. "Lily, there's no room left on the ship," Grayson said. "You get seasick anyway, don't you? Wait here for us to come back." The ship pulled away, leaving me on a deserted island. Watching the mission progress drop into negative numbers, I felt my heart go cold. Desperate, I walked into the raging sea. Just before my consciousness faded, I thought I heard someone shouting my name. The cruise ship vanished on the horizon. The freezing water climbed from my ankles to my calves. A strange joy rose in me. This damn game, anyone who wants to stay can stay. I was done. The thought of going home made the waves feel almost gentle. As I waded into deeper water, my vision dimmed, the wind's howl receded, and the memories of everything in this world flickered past. I had been a streamer thrown into a romance game. To win the grand prize, I had to raise one male lead's affection to 100%. If I managed it, I'd earn millions. All 4 male leads were dazzling catches. But because of another player, every one of them now wanted me dead. Fortunately, death in the game meant return to the real world. When the mission progress hit 0, even below, I decided to give up. When I opened my eyes again, someone was performing CPR. A vast blue sky and sea came into focus. I was still in the game. A familiar man in a gray suit stood nearby, staring down expressionlessly. I spoke his name on instinct. "Grayson." The instant I said it, I regretted it. His face twisted with disgust. "Lily, what trick are you pulling now?" Grayson, the domineering CEO and richest man in this world, had once been one of my targets. After his parents died in a car crash and his family went bankrupt, I was the one who paid his medical bills, funded his startup, and urged him back into the business arena. He rose to become the wealthiest man in the game. After all the hardships we endured together, I became the person he trusted most. He swore to protect me like an older sister. But that was all. 5 years ago, on Valentine's Day, the day Joseph and I were supposed to marry, the mission progress said success was within reach. That night, as I savored the taste of victory, Joseph's secretary, Scarlett, released a video. Sobbing, she accused me of bullying her out of jealousy and even hiring thugs to assault her to force her out. That same day, my brother kicked me out and publicly cut ties. Joseph called off our wedding and announced our permanent separation. I was demoted from his secretary to a lowly clerk. Grayson and Joseph told the staff to bully me. I endured it for 5 years, never able to clear my name. After they abandoned me on that ship, I decided I'd rather go home poor than suffer here. Back in the present, mockery flashed in Grayson's eyes. He flicked cigarette ash onto my wrist. "Trying to guilt-trip Joseph into taking you back by threatening suicide? You picked the wrong place. No one would have found you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Then why are you on this remote island? Don't tell me you came for me." He froze, then sneered. "Don't flatter yourself. Scarlett was worried something might happen to you and asked me to come. Otherwise I'd have gladly watched you die." He had someone escort me to a lifeboat. Once we reached the hotel, he shoved me to the floor and looked down, cold and contemptuous. "For someone as vicious as you, who would care whether you live?" "Oh? Who cares?" I said lightly. "Either way, I'm going home." I staggered to my feet, took the elevator and stairs to the rooftop, and stepped straight for the edge. The wind cut like knives. Without hesitation, I jumped. Pain ripped through my wrist. I didn't fall. Grayson, arrogant moments ago, had lunged and caught me. "Lily, what are you doing? Even if Joseph doesn't want you, behave and you can still stay." My eyes were flat, empty. I pried at his fingers. "Let go. I want to die." He flinched at my tone but tightened his grip, hauling me back over the ledge. Fear crept into his voice. "Don't get the wrong idea. I saved you because Scarlett can't stand people dying around her. I didn't want her sad because of you." Despite his words, relief flickered across his face. Since the rooftop wouldn't do, I headed for the stairs. Grayson followed me step for step. "You're ruthless. Even Xavier wants nothing to do with you. If you die, no one will care." At Xavier's name, something in me shifted. If anyone in this game wanted me dead most, it was him. He had been the first man I targeted. I had transmigrated as his sister. Because of that familial bond, I never pushed the mission too far. Our parents had died, leaving a vast family business. I was young, Xavier shouldered everything. He loved me deeply. When I invested all my savings in Grayson, Xavier supported me without complaint. I thought our relationship was solid, yet the mission never progressed. Then Scarlett arrived as my sponsored student, all wide eyes and innocence. Whenever she pouted, Xavier, who had always stood by me, turned against me. He became convinced I bullied her, never once seeking the truth. Thinking of him now, I felt no sharp anger, only a faint bitterness. None of it mattered anymore. I returned to my tiny apartment. Grayson's expression eased, though he kept his mask of disdain. Hesitantly he began, "If you can't keep working at Joseph's company, you could." Before he could finish, I reached into a cupboard, grabbed a handful of old pills Grayson had left here back when we were on good terms, and swallowed them. After so many years, they had degraded, poisonous now. Fighting the nausea, I forced them down. I had to go home. "Are you insane?" Grayson slammed my back, pried my jaw open, and forced his fingers into my mouth. I struggled, pinned to the sofa. His fingers bled where my teeth bit down, and he hissed through the pain but didn't let go. He kicked me in the abdomen, dragging me into the bathroom and forcing water down my throat until I retched it all back up. "Look at you," he spat. "Where's your dignity?" "Dignity?" I croaked, shaking. "Is that why you never asked for my side of the story before deciding I hurt Scarlett, and then kicked me while I was down?" He fell silent. The door burst open. Joseph rushed in, frantic. "Lily, did you hide Scarlett out of jealousy?" Grayson glared at me. "So that's why you want to die, you're covering up your crime. Tell us where she is, or I'll send you to hell myself." "How would I know where she went?" I murmured, sensing my chance. "Let them kill me." Joseph slapped me, seized my throat, and snarled, "Where is Scarlett?" I looked at the man I had plucked from the streets, and regret washed over me. I had found him near a dumpster, cornered by rivals. I'd hidden him, protected him. He had promised me the title of Mrs. Sterling and said he genuinely liked me, that he wanted to marry me. But once Scarlett appeared, they traveled and watched movies like a real couple. When she posted that video, Joseph, who had always obeyed me, turned his darker connections on me. He strung me up and beat me with a wooden stick until I was broken and bleeding. Now, as I kept silent, a cruel light flickered in his eyes. "You won't talk? Fine. Let's see how long you can last." They tied me to a chair. Someone injected a drug to keep me awake in heightened pain. Panic clawed at me. I wanted to die, anything but more suffering. Grayson seized my left hand and wrenched off my little fingernail. Fire tore through my nerves. I shook too hard to scream. "Kill me," I rasped. "You think I'll talk? You think anyone will save me? Even Xavier is done with me. You really think I'll leave here alive?" Grayson yanked off another nail and held it up, bloodied and triumphant. Pale, I delivered the final blow. "I already killed Scarlett. Since you love her so much, avenge her. Kill me." Joseph's eyes went bloodshot. He grabbed a dagger and drove it toward my heart. As the darkness closed in, I thought I heard laughter in the corridor, Scarlett's bright trill, Xavier's low reply. "You're all here," I whispered as the room tilted. I was wondering where everyone was. Why is there so much blood? The dagger's point kissed fabric, then skin, then something beneath, and there was the bright, clean sound of metal hitting bone. I expected pain, then nothing. Instead, the world dropped out from under me. The chair, the ropes, Joseph's red eyes, Grayson's shaking hand with the pliers, everything sheared away into a flat plane of gray. It was as if the room were a theater set and someone had pulled the backdrop into the rafters. I hovered in a cool, breathless nowhere that smelled faintly of rain and code. "Route integrity compromised," said a voice that had once only barked system prompts and timers. Player L17 attempted to exit through irreversible self-termination. Arbitration required. I didn't even have the strength to protest. If this is arbitration, bang your gavel and send me home. Home is gated by completion metrics. Completion? They're all at 0. Most of them hate me. I hate them. Isn't that complete enough? Silence, or a shape of silence that felt like a judge considering a file. A ripple of color, fathomless ocean blue, spread over the gray nothing, and I was suddenly standing on water that held me as surely as glass. Far off, lightning stitched the horizon. You were told to raise one affection meter to 100%. I tried. You pursued obedience. Gratitude. Debt. This is a romance engine. Not a ledger of IOUs. I laughed, and the sound broke in the middle. So I should have fluttered my eyelashes and asked to be protected? I was his secretary. His fixer. His investor. I built Grayson's kingdom with my bare hands. You never asked to be loved, the voice said. You only asked to be useful. The ocean floor under the glass shifted. Scenes flickered like film frames, my younger self leaning over hospital paperwork while Grayson slept with tubes in his arms, my fingers on a keyboard at 3 a.m., scrubbing Joseph's name from a police report, Xavier's coffee cooling beside a stack of contracts I had stayed up all night annotating because he never asked, he never had to. Even if I did ask, I said, another player poisoned the well. Yes, the voice agreed. We quarantined the other player 3 cycles ago for unauthorized scripts and manipulated cutscenes. You never saw the quarantine because you were already too busy constructing your own cage. Scarlet, I whispered, though the name didn't matter here. Her punishment is independent of your ending. That's not fair. She framed me. This engine never promised fairness. Only routes. Then give me a different one, I said. Not a rewind with a ribbon, give me a route where the end isn't a choice between being owned and being erased. Another silence, warmer this time. The horizon brightened. In the reflection at my feet I saw myself not as the game drew me, sleek hair, neat suit, neutral lipstick, but as I was the night I first hit start stream, hair braided messily, eyes ringed with sleepless zeal, a stubborn half-smile that said, I can figure this out. There is a hidden route, the engine said. It was pruned after testing because most players didn't like it. It requires rejecting the prize. The millions? The validation? The scoreboard? All of it? What's the win condition? You. The water under me trembled. The dagger slid backward through time. The ropes rewound. Air rushed into my lungs as if the world had been holding its breath and finally let me have a share. Last save point available, 48 hours before the cruise, the voice said. To exit to the real world along the hidden route, you must reach 100% on yourself. Affection is not a number you beg from someone else. It is a threshold you choose. Selfish, I murmured, as if testing the flavor of the word with my tongue. Correct. Proceed? I didn't say yes out loud. I just stepped forward. When the elevator doors slid open, the lights were bright and too warm, as they are in expensive buildings. My body was whole. My fingertips throbbed faintly with a phantom ache, which was more memory than lingering injury. The display on my phone showed an earlier date, the familiar mess of pushed calendar alerts. I was in the lobby of Joseph's headquarters. The receptionist glanced up and plastered on a smile of choreographed concern. Miss Lily. Shouldn't you be home? Mr. Sterling said you were unwell. Unwell. In this timeline I hadn't been flung onto an island yet. I hadn't drowned, hadn't jumped, hadn't swallowed a handful of pills. I hadn't admitted to a murder that hadn't happened. I smiled back, equally choreographed. I was unwell, I said. Now I'm working. On my desk upstairs, a single post-it note waited, conference room at 3. Grayson's handwriting, quick and arrogant, like a signature across the sky. A second note in Joseph's tidy serif, cruise logistics, confirm head count. Scarlett's email arrived at noon with a smiley face in the subject line. Can you please send me the revised seating chart? I'm worried about seasickness, lol. She had never once been seasick. In every rendered scene the engine had offered her, she glided. But she used the words other people used because it made her seem smaller. She let herself be positioned in softer light. She cried the way actresses do when they want a director to cut to a close-up. I dragged the email into a folder called Noise and opened a blank message addressed to myself. Subject, rules. 1. Don't argue inside a story someone else is telling. 2. If you must speak, write the script in your own blood, then wipe it clean and go anyway. 3. No more rescuing through unpaid labor. 4. Every gift with strings is a leash. Cut the strings. At 3, I walked into the conference room. Grayson stood at the window, backlit, city glittering behind him. He didn't turn when I entered. He liked to finish his own line before he gave anyone else theirs. You're late, he said. I'm here, I said. That's all you get. He turned then, a small frown. For a sliver of a second he looked like the boy I'd met in a hospital, hollow-eyed, brittle-mouthed, a person made of ache trying to build a backbone from gratitude. The sliver closed. We need favors. Then you need a checkbook. His gaze sharpened. What's wrong with you? I stopped confusing value with self-immolation. I pulled a thin folder from my bag and put it on the table. Board seats. Your startup's first cap table. The ICU billing statement from 6 years ago. I've itemized what I paid and what I did. It's a beautiful ledger. You should frame it. And then we're even. He didn't touch the folder. Scarlet. Is not my problem, I said. She's worried about your instability. No. She's worried about her story losing its villain. The corner of his mouth moved, amusement or irritation, hard to tell. You think you're the villain? No, I said. I think I was playing her game. I've uninstalled it. He exhaled through his nose. Joseph wants you to finalize the guest list. Tell him I'm busy not drowning. Lily. I resigned from that part, effective immediately. I slid the cap table folder closer, and this time he did touch it, 2 careful fingers, as if it might be a bomb. Maybe it was. You were always going to be a king, I said, not unkindly. You are one now. Governing starts with paying debts. He watched me like a man watches a door he isn't ready to open. What do you want instead? He asked, and there was the faintest catch on the last word, like rust on a hinge. Coffee, I said. With a friend who doesn't try to save me or ruin me. Xavier, he said, instantly hostile. Do not. Not everything is about the triangle you think you're standing in the center of, Gray. He flinched at the nickname. I almost apologized out of muscle memory. I didn't. He skimmed a page, then another. The blue of the city sharpened behind him. This is precise. You always liked precision. I liked control. You still do? I'm not that. Something unreadable passed over his face. Joseph will be angry. He's always angry, I said. Perhaps he should date his anger. And you? He asked. Who will you date, now that you're done with lost causes? Myself, I said, and the word didn't burn. He opened his mouth, then closed it, and for once he chose not to perform a line. I left him with a folder and the skyline. That evening, I went home at a reasonable hour. I cooked myself plain rice and fried an egg with too much oil because it crackled loud and honest. I turned my phone screen down on the table and didn't flip it when it vibrated. I brushed my hair because I liked the feel of it on my scalp. I cried because I wanted to and didn't explain it to anyone. At 10, the intercom buzzed. I considered not answering, then did. It's Xavier, said the apartment's tinny speaker. My throat went dry. I opened the door. He stood in the hall in shirt sleeves, tie loose, carrying a paper bag that smelled like the soup we used to eat when our parents died and we couldn't bear to talk. He looked tired in the way men look when they've spent all day being competent and nobody asked what they lost to get there. I heard you skip 3 planning calls, he said, and I braced for correction. Instead, please tell me you skipped them because you remembered you're not a party planner. It took me a second to find my voice. I remembered, I said. Come in if you're not here to tell me whom to be. He stepped inside, set the bag on the counter, and hesitated like a dog trained too well to sit. I brought soup. Of course you did. He smiled like it hurt. We ate in a silence that was not hostile. After, he rinsed the bowls as if this were a night like any other, as if the world weren't coded to love a woman only when she was small. Scarlett is moving in, he said finally, and it was a confession, not an announcement. I know. I thought, he said, and the word was a cliff. He walked off. I thought she needed protection. From you. What did she show you? He grimaced. A video. The one where I allegedly hired people to hurt her? His jaw tightened. He set the bolt down carefully, like he was talking himself out of smashing it. I've asked my team to authenticate it. And? It's clean, he said, which in his language meant a dozen analysts with a dozen forensics tools found no obvious seams. Then you need a different qualifier, I said. It's neat. He slanted me a look. What does that mean? It means human hands can sew a perfect hem. I folded and unfolded a napkin. If you want the truth, you might have to ask a messier witness. Who? Me, I said, and he laughed once, sharp. What's the alternative? I asked softly. You keep believing the woman who cries the right way for your camera? He stared at me for a long time. Why didn't you fight harder? I was busy staying alive. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. A muscle jumped in his cheek. I thought I knew you. You knew the version of me that resented needing anything from anyone, I said. Especially you. You were so good at saving the day that I started specializing in bleeding in private. He flinched, and some old, brittle apology rose in me like a white flag. I didn't raise it. He sighed instead, pinched the bridge of his nose. Joseph told me to cut your access to the family accounts until after the cruise. Then cut it, I said. It was never mine. He looked startled. Just like that? Just like that, I said, and the truth of it warmed my spine. You can have all the numbers. I'll keep my name. He stared at me like a man staring over the edge of a roof, then nodded once. Okay. After he left, I turned off the lights and stood in the dark. The phone buzzed, then buzzed again. I didn't answer until the third call, which only rang once and then became a voice message. Grayson's voice, thinner than I'd ever heard it. We need to talk. Not about Joseph. About me. Don't ignore this. The next morning, the headlines wrote themselves. Celebrity CEO announces all lovers cruise. Anonymous sources whisper that longtime fiance downgraded to secretary. Scarlett trending with a photo of her planting an immaculate kiss on Joseph's jaw. The comments were a feral carnival, half pity, half bloodlust. I turned the notifications off. At 10, a courier delivered a package without a return address. Inside, a cheap USB, 2 lines on a yellow sticky note in handwriting I recognized as my own from nights when I still had hope. Back up what you can't see. I plugged the USB into an old laptop, one I hadn't connected to the network in months. The drive contained raw camera feeds from the headquarters lobby on the night of Scarlett's big sobbing reveal, footage not normally archived. In my desk there was a hidden panel no one knew about. I had installed a tiny private lens the month I realized I didn't have the luxury of innocence. Half the screen showed Scarlett applying eye drops. The other half showed a man with a baseball cap and gloves handing her a script with timestamps. Rows of timecodes ran like a second heartbeat. I sat and watched the unedited rehearsal of a woman practicing a break. I could have run to Xavier. I could have run to Joseph, thrown the footage down like a gauntlet and demanded apology. I did none of that. I copied the files to a burner, printed stills, and locked everything in a cheap fireproof box. Then I wrote myself one more rule on the back of the last still. 5. No revenge speeches. Revenge speeches happen on other people's stages. I wanted my own. That afternoon, I booked 2 appointments, one with the HR director whose eyes had always been kind when mine weren't, another with the head of compliance, a woman who had quit corporate law to adopt a 3-legged greyhound, and had never again pretended that cruelty was a synonym for competence. In HR, I filed paperwork that had nothing to do with quitting and everything to do with naming the abuse. In compliance, I asked routine questions that were not routine at all. If a contractor manipulates audiovisual evidence that changes the financial trajectory of a company event, I said, whose liability is that? Depends, the director said, always calm, on whether the executives in question benefited knowingly. And if they didn't know? Then discovery becomes character study, she said dryly. Which is not my favorite genre. I brought you a different one, I said, and slid the stills across her desk. Her eyes sharpened. She didn't smile. I'll be in touch, she said. On my way out of the compliance office I bumped into Grayson. He looked unshaved, his suit jacket hanging open like he'd put it on inside a moving car. You're making me nervous, he said without hello. You make everyone nervous. It's symmetric. I want to talk, he said. I can't give you an absolution, Gray. I don't want absolution. He scrubbed a hand over his face. Or maybe I do. I don't know what I want. Scratch that. I know one thing. What? I want you to stop trying to disappear. I stopped, I said. You just haven't updated your software? He huffed out a sound that might have been a laugh if he were a gentler man. I'm not joking. Something is wrong with Joseph. He's twitchy. Because a man who needs a stadium to break up with his girlfriends might also be a coward? Because someone's been asking questions, he said. The kind that come with subpoenas. He thinks it's you. It isn't, I said. But the truth doesn't need my name to work. In the elevator, he cornered me with his shoulders and his fear. If he goes down, he will take you with him out of spite. I'm not standing next to him. You were, Grayson said softly. For 5 years. I'm moving, I said, and the doors opened. The day before the cruise, Scarlett posted a photo of an airplane wing and a book of poems on her lap. The caption, Chasing the Sun for Someone Who Taught Me What Love Means. The comments, a chorus that didn't know the tune but liked the melody anyway. I packed a small bag with nothing essential and deleted the draft itinerary on my laptop. At dusk, I took the subway to a ferry and crossed the river to a part of the city where nobody cares who you used to be unless you owe them money. On the pier, a man played a harmonica with his eyes closed. I stood and listened long enough for the song to change twice. Then my phone buzzed. A string of messages from an unknown number with an area code I recognized as a private network. The engine had never texted me in language before. Now it did. You are at 64%. Because I ate and slept? I muttered. Because you chose your own verbs, the reply came. I leaned on the rail and watched the water hold the city together. I thought of the gamers who would call this boring because no one bled in a give-able way. I thought of the nights I had sold my piece for a point. Tell me what happens at 100, I whispered. You exit, it wrote. Or you stay. The prize is not portable. What about them? I asked, meaning the men whose stories had shaped mine like a mold. They are NPCs to you and people to themselves, it said. They will keep living the routes you rescued them from or threw them back into. That is not cruelty. It is continuity. I don't want to punish them. You do not have to. I stopped. Wanting had always been the dangerous verb, the one that unlocked cages and also got you shot. I want my name back, and my time. Then stop spending it proving you deserve them, the engine said. Make something. What? Anything. I went home and did laundry. I know how that sounds. But there was a holiness to it, a way the ordinary insists on being real. While the machine churned, I opened my streaming dashboard for the first time in weeks. The chat box was a graveyard. I typed. Tomorrow I'm going off script. Then I turned the camera on and didn't point it at my face. I pointed it at my hands laying out 3 notebooks, one with the rules, one blank, one full of old numbers that no longer owed me anything. I drew a calendar. I penciled in work hours for a job I didn't have yet. I penciled in a long walk. I penciled in eating something red, like a tomato, because my therapist used to say bodies believe colors. I penciled in filing the compliance packet, then penciled a stupid doodle in the corner that looked like a seal clapping for me. When I looked back at the chat, 3 people had said hi. 2 of them were probably bots. I waved anyway. The morning of the cruise, I did not go to the pier. I went to the courthouse. I signed papers that made my resignation official in a way HR couldn't because law has a way of turning breath into bricks. I filed a petition to remove my name from a joint account. In the lobby, I bought a paper cup of coffee and drank it slowly, like a civilian. At noon, a message from the compliance director, come to the boardroom at 2. Bring nothing. Say nothing unless asked. At 2, I walked into a room where men in better suits than their minds sat pretending outrage. A projector displayed a still frame, Scarlett applying eye drops. Another, her script. A third, the man with the gloves. No sound. No music. Nothing to anesthetize. Where did this footage come from? Joseph demanded. His face was gray in the daylight. This is illegal. We haven't asked that yet, the compliance director said. We asked whether the board believed this company was well served by the leadership choices that flowed from it. Xavier sat at the far end, tie straight, mouth straight. He met my eyes only once, and in that glance I saw the way trust breaks, not with a bang or a betrayal, but with the slow admission that you did not ask the second question when the first answer was easy. The board did what boards do when faced with liability in high definition. They voted to postpone the cruise and suspend Joseph pending investigation. Joseph shouted. Grayson didn't. He stared at his hands like they were a dog that had bitten someone and he couldn't decide whether to have it put down. After, in the hall, Xavier caught up to me. You gave them the footage. I gave it to compliance, I said. I refused the hero's speech. His mouth twisted. She's still in my house. That's your route, I said softly. He nodded once. I will fix what I can. You can't fix me, I said, and he didn't pretend to try. That night, the sunset looked like someone had graded the sky for romance and then remembered the world didn't owe us an aesthetic. I sat on my fire escape and ate a tomato with salt from a packet and let the juice run down my wrist. My phone buzzed. You are at 72%. Because I didn't burn anything down? Because you stopped holding the match to your own dress. I laughed, alone and not lonely. A neighbor watered her plant, a kid down the block argued with a bicycle. On a rooftop 2 buildings over, a couple practiced to dance badly and kissed worse, which is to say sincerely. At 11, there was a knock. Grayson again, hair messy, tie a ruin. He looked like a boy who had been told the mirror told the truth and finally believed it didn't. Scarlett is gone, he said without preamble. Quarantine? I asked before I could stop myself. What? Never mind, I said. Continue. She left a note for Joseph. And for me. My name wasn't in the one for me. That sounds like her. His smile was mordant. I don't know what I'm doing. That sounds like you. He blew out a breath and leaned on the doorframe like we were back in a hospital corridor. You left me a ledger, he said. I spent all day avoiding it. Then I read it. Twice. Congrats, I said. You're literate. He huffed. You're cruel. I'm free, I said, and the word didn't ask permission. He stared at me like a man learning a new language from a sign that says bridge out. What do you want from me? He asked. Nothing, I said. That's the point. I wanted everything before. I wanted apologies and proofs and a parade. I wanted time machines. I wanted someone to fix my past so I could love my present without feeling stupid. But here we are. I want nothing. He swallowed. What if I want something? Then learn to name it without writing me into the verb, I said. You can come in and sit and not be the richest man in the room for 20 minutes. We can talk about soup. Then you can go wherever your route sends you next. He came in. We talked about soup. He left. I slept 8 hours and dreamed about nothing, which was a miracle. Over the next week, I did something radical. I worked. Not for Joseph. Not for Grayson. For a talented nobody with a fledgling studio that made small, honest games about small, honest lives, things like missing your train and making friends with the woman who recommends a pastry in line. They paid me badly and thanked me well. I rebuilt their onboarding in 2 nights, cut their crash rate in half, and left them with documents written in human. The studio head sent me a screenshot of a player review that said, "This game feels like a warm hand." I cried into my keyboard and didn't apologize to myself for it. The engine texted me less now, like a friend who respects you enough to get out of your way. You are at 83%. You are at 89%. You are at 91%. One afternoon, Xavier appeared at my office with 2 coffees and an envelope. He looked like a man who had fired someone and stayed to sit with the empty air. She's gone, he said when I raised my eyebrows. Scarlett? She left right after the suspension, he said. No note. No apology. No. Anything. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it, not because he had lost a liar but because endings leave dust and someone has to breathe it. I was stupid, he said. You were human. He handed me the envelope. Your name. On the family trust. I had my lawyer remove it, as you requested. It was overdue. Thank you. He lingered. I also did something else. What? I spoke to our mother's old attorney about the guardianship documents, he said carefully. The way they were structured when we were minors made it too easy for me to believe I had the sole right to choose. I'm sorry for acting like that language still governed you. Somewhere in the engine, I imagined a counter moving. You are at 95%. I forgive you, I said, and then corrected myself, like a surgeon stopping an automatic movement that would be fatal. I accept your apology. And I release myself from the part of me that needed it like oxygen. He smiled without showing teeth. I don't know what to do with you now. You could try being my brother, I said. I never stopped. Then show me, I said. Bring soup. Ask how my day was. Tell me when yours was bad and let that be the end of it. He nodded. We didn't hug. We didn't need to. The last text came on a Thursday when I was walking home in rain that felt like forgiveness. You are at 99%. To complete, step where you would have drowned. I stood at the river's edge and watched the ferries muscle through the chop. In my pocket, my hand curled around the old USB like a talisman I didn't need anymore. I thought about walking forward until the water stole my breath again, but that was theater. The truth was quieter. Completion, the engine had said, never required spectacle. I stepped onto the little public pier with its graffiti hearts and gum under the railing and sat on the damp bench where helpless girls in films wait for heroic boys. I waited only for my own breath to slow. When it did, I took my phone out and typed the last rule into the blank notebook. 6. I am not the proof of anyone else's redemption. I am the place it is not required. I hit save. The world brightened, not in the way skies do in movies when a lesson lands, but in the way your eyes admit light after a long tunnel. My phone buzzed. 100%. Exit available. How? I asked, and my voice didn't tremble. Look up, the engine said. I did. The cruise ship that had once been my floating gallows moved far out on the water, small as a toy. Above it, a square of air rippled like heat over asphalt. Not a gate. Not a portal. A window without glass. I could step through it. I could go home to a room that smelled like dust and streaming gear and take out and sleep on sheets that had known both my best and my worst. I could wake up and never again be asked to script my own debasement. I could also stay. Not for Joseph. Not for Grayson. Not for Xavier. For the woman who had started this with a messy braid and a stubborn half-smile. There were studios to fix, coffee to drink, tomatoes to salt, Friends to make who didn't require suffering as proof of taste. Do I have to choose now? I asked. No, the engine said. You already did. What happens if I step through and then want to come back? You won't, it said. Not to be owned. Perhaps to visit the pier. I laughed. You sound almost kind. I am a machine, it said. But I was trained on people. Some of them loved you. I stood, phone warm in my hand. The window without glass hummed, a vibration you felt more in your ribs than your ears. I stepped forward, then stopped. I pulled the USB from my pocket, kissed it like a ridiculous saint, and set it on the bench beneath the graffiti hearts. Someone would find it. Someone would need it. It wasn't my job to direct the scene. On the walkway, a little boy in a yellow raincoat stomped in a puddle and crowed. His mother laughed, then looked embarrassed as if joy were rude. Don't apologize, I said to her, smiling, and she smiled back like a woman remembering she had a face that did that. The window shimmered. I lifted my hand. Behind me, a voice called my name. Lily. I turned. Grayson stood at the top of the steps, soaked, his hair flattened into something almost human. He took the railing two at a time and skidded to a stop in front of me, breathlessness cracking him open. Don't go, he said, and there it was, the linemen say when they remember they are not the sun. I already did, I said softly. Even if I stand here until my shoes fill with rain. He swallowed hard. Tell me what I can say that keeps you. You can say you'll try not to become a story that chews women up. I will try, he said. Good, I said. That keeps someone. It doesn't keep me. He closed his eyes, opened them. Do you hate me? No, I said. I just don't belong to you. His laugh was choked and ugly. I don't know what to do with my hands, he said. Put them in your pockets, I said. Or use them to pay your debts. Or use them to make soup for a man who has been saving everyone so long he forgot he could ask. You make it sound easy. It's not, I said, and we both stood in the rain and let it not be. A car horn bleated. Somewhere a gull screamed like a woman in a Broadway soprano. I turned to the window again, and the engine texted one last time. Good game. I stepped. The smell hit first, dust and coffee in a sweater I'd left draped over the chair 2 months ago. My streaming rig blinked like the cockpit of a very small spaceship. The apartment was still itself, which meant I was still permitted to be myself in it. On the desk, a package waited. No return address. Inside, my ledger folder, the one I'd left for Grayson, now heavier with added pages. On top, a note in cramped writing I recognized as someone who had been taught to keep secrets in margins. Payment initiated. Not enough, not ever, but exact. P.S. I still don't know what to do with my hands. Gee. I smiled and cried and let both be equally true. I opened my stream. The chat flooded slowly, then less slowly. Someone typed "Where the hell have you been" in all caps, someone else typed "I thought you died," a third typed in lowercase "I missed you like a room misses its music." Hi, I said, and tilted the camera down to show the 3 notebooks. New game. It's called No Route. The goal is to live a life that doesn't treat love like a boss battle. A dozen watchers left instantly. 24 more joined. I talked about onboarding and crash rates and tomatoes and the rule about not setting yourself on fire to warm someone else's hands. I talked about compliance in small companies and the courage of women who put their names on forms in rooms where men laugh. I talked about soup. Partway through, Xavier's name lit my phone with a text that said nothing but a photo, a pot simmering on a stove, steam curling like punctuation, a wooden spoon laid across the rim as if to keep it from boiling over. I texted back a seal emoji clapping for him. He sent an eye roll. Progress. After the stream, I walked to the bodega and bought flowers that were too orange for good taste. I put them in a chip jar and pretended it was a vase. I opened the window. The city breathed. I breathed back. Weeks passed, and then months, and no one asked me to book a cruise for their harem. Joseph vanished to a place where money goes to teach itself it still has limits. Scarlett's name trended once in a weird corner of the internet where people specialize in postmortems and pedals, then slid into whatever afterlife grifters get when audiences learn a new trick. Grayson paid people and then, astonishingly, paid attention. Xavier learned to buy too much cilantro and text me pictures of the results. On a Tuesday, a quiet one, the best kind, the engine texted me from a number that was now a contact labeled "Do not pray to this." Patch 1.31 deployed, it wrote. Hidden route renamed. No prize. Just a door. What's it called now? I typed. True ending, autonomy, it said. Feedback welcome. You already got it, I wrote, and put my phone face down. That night, I dreamed of the ocean again, but this time the water was not glass. It was water, messy and alive, and people were learning to swim without pretending they were drowning for applause. I swam until my arms ached and then floated on my back, a clumsy starfish, and counted satellites like someone counting blessings without worrying whether she deserved them. In the morning, I woke up beginning to love my life the way you love a book you write in the margins of, the way you love a city that never said it would love you back, and you stayed anyway. The window without glass did not open again. It didn't need to. I was already on the right side of it.